Hey, today I'm going to talk about nervous system healing and what you can do to diminish the impact of stress and get your nervous system healthy, which means feeling better, being healthier, and just experiencing life more fully. My name's Rochelle Walsh. I've been a complex trauma therapist for over 2 decades. I have a coaching program, Joyful and Present, where I help intentional women go from overwhelm to calm and confident in their emotions. And I do that using neuroscience-based approach paired with principles of the Christian faith, because that's really important to me. First of all, I want to talk about what is nervous system healing. So when I talk about nervous system dysregulation, what I'm talking about is chronic stress. Okay. This is the way our autonomic nervous system is firing. So when we think about our autonomic nervous system, we think about things that are not within our conscious control, right? So like we don't tell our stomach it's time to digest lunch, or I need my heart to beat, or, let's make my lungs expand. We don't control those things with our conscious mind. They are in our autonomic nervous system, in our autopilot, this lower region of our brain. I always say very elementary, in an elementary way, in our bottom brain. Okay. So this is where a chronic fight or flight response, these are the regions of the brain that are impacting that chronic stress response. Now, there can be many drivers to this alarm system being stuck in the on position. And so many times we're only focused on one area, not understanding that there are different drivers to nervous system dysregulation. If you don't address the issue, looking at a approach, you're going to be stuck. And here's what that looks like when someone is stuck in overdrive. They might have a lot of mind racing, right? And you don't have to have all of these, because sometimes people are experiencing physiologically, throughout their body. Sometimes they're experiencing the cognitive symptoms. Sometimes they're really emotionally dysregulated. I'm going to talk about that. When someone is stuck in overdrive, stuck in fight or flight, it can look a little bit different. For some people, it's going to be mind racing. I can't shut it off. There's a restlessness that comes up in me. When I try to be still, it gets maybe even worse. Maybe they've tried things like exercise to exert the energy. They've tried to do things like calming, and maybe tried, meditation or stillness or focusing on scripture. They're trying everything they can do to still their mind, but they're restless. And that causes, them to maybe start to have things like brain fog or memory issues or difficulty making decisions, lack of clarity in their mental function. Overdrive, overwhelm may also just be feeling completely depleted. Like there's just nothing left. Like I don't have the energy. I just push through to do the things I want to do, and then I just want to retreat. I feel so zapped of energy, and I'm fatigued and tired, and I just find myself, wanting to not have any more stimulation or go to sleep, but then maybe even sleep is restless. Some people might feel a little bit more frozen, right? They might feel like I just can't take initiative on things. I see things there and I know I need to do them, but I just feel a little bit frozen, or I can't connect to people like I want to. I want to go out and engage socially or engage with my family, and I feel kind of frozen, lethargic, difficult, getting moving. They might feel it emotionally. They might feel irritable. Like I don't want to snap. I've never been an angry person, but all of a sudden I'm irritable and there's this anger coming up. Or they might say, I feel tearful. Or they might say, I feel like my body's holding all this stress and I can't cry. That's what it can look like. Work, you might find yourself cutting corners, feeling like I've just got too much I've taken on. I need to step back. That happens a lot with, burnout and feeling overwhelmed. So, and then we can also get a lot of physical symptoms. So physical symptoms of, maybe digestive issues, headaches, muscle tension, teeth grinding. Again, some cognitive symptoms that make you wonder, gosh, am I getting early dementia, which actually is a risk because chronic stress does damage us cognitively. Those things are reversible, but it does age our brain and age our body. So people just generally feel kind of exhausted. And so when we think about chronic stress, a lot of the common strategies want to tell us to think different, or maybe move our body different and, get more exercise, eat healthier. All those things are wonderful things, but I'm going to explain the 4 drivers to chronic stress. And I think you're going to understand why so many times those things aren't effective. So first of all, we can think about that alarm system in the brain. There's different things that keep our system in overdrive. So one might be that there might be physical stressors. So maybe there has been a recent loss or something that's happened in the physical that's an outside stressor, and our body is responding to that, right? So if we shined bright lights in our eyes, our body would have a reaction to that. Our cells would change to adapt to that bright light. So sometimes there are stressors from the outside that are causing a direct impact on our nervous system. This is not the most common reason because life is full of stressors and not everybody is living in chronic fight or flight. Everybody has things, everybody has hard things, and we will go through hard things. It's more our internal reaction to that. So the other things that can turn on this fight or flight is that it's become habitual. So we have nervous system pathways that have been influenced and fired that way for a long time, that it's become habitual. Our cells have adapted to chronic stress. So even though we get out of that season, a lot of times people say this, I thought once I stepped back from the job, I thought once my kids were older, I kept thinking when I got to this certain time in life or this certain milestone, I wouldn't be experiencing that stress, but nothing has really changed. That's because it's become habitual. And so once that fight or flight, we are stuck in that overdrive, our nervous system is firing in a repetitious pattern outside of our conscious control. It's just become very habitual. Our cells, our body's chemistry, our DNA has adapted to that chronic stress. Other driver for this is emotional. So emotional regulation, there was a Harvard study that showed that emotional regulation, meaning confidence that I can move through my emotions with ease and handle the things that come up, the greater the emotional regulation, the lower the stress response. So there's this inverse reaction. So if I can move through emotions confidently, then I don't need to be in a hyper control mode, worrying about what may happen next, because I know when I get to that moment, I'm going to be able to handle it. So many times people had their physical needs met and were taken care of, but maybe they didn't come from a family that really dealt with emotions a lot. And maybe that person learned to feel in control and good by pleasing and performing. They don't necessarily recognize maybe sometimes even that they had anything really hard happen, but they have been in a consistent pattern of suppressing their own emotions and meeting the needs of the environment or the people around them. They don't have a lot of confidence in moving through their own emotions. So their own emotions come up, activate this stress response before it even reaches conscious awareness, suppress it in the body. That's where we see the body hold a lot of stress of unprocessed emotions. So this can be survival stress from the past, but it can also be just emotions, just moving through emotions that we all have. And so when there are strategies that are just telling you to think different or change your habits or exercise more, it does nothing to change the emotional, subconscious, emotional regulatory system. So emotional regulation is a key, and that's in the subconscious part of the brain. So not up here, but it's in that subconscious. That's why it's really an important part of nervous system healing. And then, of course, cognitive. And I don't mean up here. You can have a great deal of knowledge. I was a complex trauma therapist and had a lot of advanced training in nervous system regulation and working through. And yet when I went through a season of really intense chronic stress for myself, I realized I wasn't implementing. I wasn't doing things on a continual basis, but I did know that stress, eventually I cracked a tooth all the way down. Like I was clenching my teeth at night. And I was able to recognize that even though, I had been exerting all my energy and taking care of my daughter who was sick, and thought I can just push through, and I was taking care of everything else in the system, really cracking that tooth all the way down, eventually having to get an implant, really awakened me. Another time I pulled out in traffic and I realized I had this great fund of knowledge, but I didn't have a daily practice. And so cognitively, I had up here But something in my subconscious belief system said, it's not important. It's everybody else first. Those subconscious cognitions that we can't reason out of. We really have to work having practices, daily practices to be able to calm so that we can change those subconscious core beliefs. And when we change those subconscious core beliefs, then we start to take different action, right? We start to do things differently. And the last driver is behaviorally, right? Behaviorally, we have patterns that we have grown accustomed to. And if we're over the age of 30, which I certainly am, those patterns, those behavioral patterns are very habitual. And so we've done the same thing over and over again. And so it's just the way we are, but it's not the way we have to be. And so behavioral, that is another driver. If we are going in a behavioral pattern and not allowing ourselves rest, not allowing ourselves quiet time, not allowing ourselves, things that are really restorative to us, then we are going to continue that cycle. So for nervous system healing, what I really want you to understand for the purpose of this video is that right within each of our reach is the ability to heal our nervous system. In 15 minutes a day, you can do things that really start to slow those high beta waves, fight or flight. And if you do them consistently, you will start to establish the calm and the inner stillness to be able to work on the cognition. You'll be able to actually get to subconscious belief patterns. And emotional regulation is something that if you didn't learn it experientially, you do have to learn it, and then you have to implement it and integrate it. And then behaviorally, you start making different choices. A lot of times people they'll say, I've read so many self-help books, I've been to retreats, but they haven't been given the strategy to be able to live in that. So we can all experience a mountaintop high when we hear a great sermon, or we read a book, or we really feel seen and heard by something that's shared. We gain new information. We're like, oh, that's exactly me. That's exactly how I feel. But really, so many people fail to really believe that it doesn't have to be that way. And there are things that we can do once we decide that we really want to live in a different way, not just for ourselves, but for the other people and in our lives, and also just to live out a fuller version of who we were created to be. Nervous system healing is about getting to those deeper places through simple strategies. We do not need to go into the past to be able to be relieved from the past. The past and the things that have happened have left an imprint in how our nervous system fires, but it does not have to be our future. We cannot have a future we want by being stuck in something that was painful in our past. So we have to study, but really just experience the new thing, practice the new way, rather than getting stuck in old patterns and thinking that's just how I have to be or who I was created to be. It's available for everyone. It's something that each of us can start to do. It does take time. It does take consistency, but within a few weeks, people can feel remarkably better. And once you establish those practices over time, they become a new way of being. So again, I do have a 90-day program. We work through nervous system healing, core belief reprogramming, all of the things I discussed, because it really has to be a holistic approach. But it's so much faster and so much easier than combating symptoms and trying to calm the sleep and trying to work on the gut issues and trying to get rid of the headaches and relieve the muscle tension, push through, really being determined that it's okay to live another way and to break free from burnout and chronic stress, and that each of us has the power within to do that. So if you want to listen to my masterclass where I explain in a little more depth things I've been talking about here, there is a link below. Following that, for people who want to apply for help in working together through nervous system healing, I have an amazing program and community of women, and we just love seeing women break free. So hope this was helpful. See you in the next video.